Recording started.
So today is a very special day for service of the Buddha because of your presence. And I think all of us are, and everybody has been informed of your presence, and I think we welcome you to Sri Lanka. And I met you already, and so let's start with the discourse. The subject of today's discourse is Sabbassava Sutta. Sabbassava Sutta. The Sabbassava Sutta is in the Majjhima Nikaya. You know, in the Tipitaka, there is the Sutta Pitaka. And the Sutta Pitaka, there are the 5 sections. And the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle length discourses are in the Majjhima Nikaya. And the Sabbassava Sutta that we are discussing today is the second sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya. It has the Buddha starts this particular sutta with a very interesting, very cryptic, very, very interesting words. He says, Janato aham bhikkhave passato khayang vadami, no ajanato, no ajanato. Janato, bhikkhus, but this was for the bhikkhus. Bhikkhus are present, and then the Buddha made this exposition. I say that the destruction of the taints is for one who knows and sees, not for one who does not know and see. So it's very interesting words. I say that the destruction of the taints. Now, what is destruction of the saints? Now, when you destroy or when you get rid of the taints, we become an arahant. And that's why the arahants are called keen assava. Assava, keen. That's the people who have destroyed the taints. Assava. So keen assava. So I say the destruction of the taints. That means if you want to become an arahant, and that's the motto of this organization. Nissan, arahant, Nissan, the bride be arahant. It is very necessary that we know and see. The question comes of what? He says, knows and sees, and not for one who does not see, who does not know and see. So here the important thing is we should know, when you say this particular discourse, unlike others, is very interesting due to various reasons. One is, I think, is an abject lesson of as to how a discourse has to be given. He asks questions, he gives a reply, and there is a introductory part, and then he goes on the details. And then finally, he recapitulates, the Buddha recapitulates the main points of his discourse. So to that extent, it's a very interesting sutta, Sabbassava Sutta. Now, Sabba Asava, Asava are the taints. Now, the word taint is only one interpretation or one rendering of the word asava. Asava has different renderings. It's called cankers, then intoxicants, then there are other subjects like that, other references. And the interesting thing is, in Sanskrit, the word asava, in our language, in single language, you call ashrava, that's coming from the Sanskrit, ashrava. But the word asava has a medical, Ayurvedic medicinal interpretation, or that is important in that way, because asava is something that we get after fermentations. Fermentation and a sort of medicine that is taken after fermentation. So why the word asava means that the taints that the Buddha speaks of, they are within us, they are deep rooted through our samsaric life, is deep rooted. And that is why the relevance is there, because unlike the other defilements, the deep rooted taints which are discussed as asavas are something that it's there innate in all of us. And it comes up, it emerges, or as when we meet situations, we meet, then these asavas come up. So let's take something in the discussion of this. The Buddha says, all right, to know and see what? Now, if you say the Buddha wants us to see and know and see, then he himself asked the question, what is it that we have to know and see? And he replies, wise attention and unwise attention. So these are the two important words. Say in the first is janato, passato are two words first. The two words. Janato is knowing and passato is seeing. And he says then later on, subsequently he asks, what is it? He says, we have to have attention, wise attention and unwise attention. There are the two attentions, Manasikara, the Pali word is manasikaroti. Manasikaroti is having attention on something. So if you have wise attention, that the consequences are one. And if you have unwise attention, the consequences are different. So normally with a normal person, a putujjana, the person who is not on the path, there is so much of unwise attention. And because when there is unwise attention, what happens is the asavas, the taints, they arise in one's mind. And then also they increase, rises and increases. On the other hand, if you have wise attention, then the taints that have arisen, we get abandoned, and also new taints do not arise. So the most important thing in this sutta that we have to remember is that we have always to have wise attention. Manasikara. The yoniso manasikara is there. Here the wise attention, the word is yoniso, yes. Yoniso manasikara and ayoniso manasikara. So important thing is that we have to have this wise attention almost every moment of our life. We have to have the wise attention. That's what we have to develop. Because if you don't have wise attention, then it's possible, the great possibility of the taints or the asavas arising, and also of their increasing. Now, when you say asava, what are these taints? The Buddha gives us, then the question is asked, what are these taints? The asavas. There in the earlier suttas, there are three asavas. One is kama asava, that's kama asava. Kama, that is your pleasures, trying to, Then the other one is kamasava, then avijjasava, and also bhavasava, bhava, being. Now bhava, that is being, becoming, we always like, although we say that we want to attain Nibbana, we have that inclination to live, to have another birth. In many of our, say, day-to-day life, if a person dies, we say, let this person be my mother in my next life. Like that, we have this type of, normally, usually, we have that type of asava or taint, the canker of being born again. And also we are inclined to a life which is sensuous in the sense of pleasing the five senses. Pleasing the senses, and also that is kamasava. That's a normal tendency. And also we have this tendency of being, of liking our interest, our wish to be born again and again. Although we say Nibbana, on the other hand, we have that wish. So these are deep-rooted. And that's why, and the other asava is avijja, is ignorance. And it's because of ignorance that many of more other taints, other type of what we call the defilements come up, arise in our mind because of our avijja, of our not knowing true nature of things. So here avijja means to take it as not knowing the Four Noble Truths, or not looking at things as anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Not looking at things as impermanent, not looking at things as not satisfactory, and not looking at things as soulless or without soul or without something, without I, me, and mine. So the moment these arises, the asavas arise in our mind, it finally, the conclusion or the final step is that we think of everything with an I, with a me and a mine. Is I do this, I have done this. There are so many, I like this to happen. I like if I could get this. So the whole thing is based on I, and also me and mine. This is mine. The thing is, something would be just on the table, but the moment it's given to me, it's mine. And I possess that, and I like that, I have to. So this concept of I, me, and mine come up when we have the asavas, when the asavas are very small. So that is why the Buddha says the word asava is used, is deep-rooted. This notion of I, my, and mine is deep-rooted. And with that, all the other problems come up. If we can get rid of the I, me, and mine, which is so deep-rooted in us, then our outlook to the world is very different. And that's the outlook of our Arahant, of the Buddha, the Arahant, is that of a person who does not think of anything as I, me, and mine. So that's a very important aspect that we have to remember. So here, the sutta speaks of the destruction or getting rid or the abandoning of all the taints, of all the asavas. So as I said, the asavas are kamasava, kama, pleasurable objects, pleasing the senses, and then our desire to live, to have existence, bhava, and also avijja, avijjasava arise. So how to get rid of this? It's also, I think I should mention that in the later discourses, there's another asava that is mentioned. It is called dikta asava, dikta, view. Because it happens that when we have a view on something, it's we like to cling on to that. It's very difficult to get rid of that. To have an open mind is what is required in the Dhamma, or in pursuing the Dhamma, this path. You have to have an open mind. But when we have a view on a particular thing, we want it is my view. I said this is what it is, and I want it to happen that way. So Dikta Asava is also extremely, that's why it comes from Avijja, because in the earlier suttas only 3 asavas are mentioned. But subsequently, there is another regarding the dikti or the view, which is also something which creates issues and problems in life. So here, it's important that then the Buddha, sorry, how do you get rid of these? The question is that we know the asavas, how do we get rid of that? And the Buddha gives or explains 7 ways, 7 methods of getting rid of the asavas, getting rid of those cankers, or that what intoxicates one, intoxicants, intoxicating one, that all that defiles one's mind, how to get rid of that. So there are 7 ways. It's not only one, there are 7 ways for getting rid of the asavas. And you will see that if you want to get rid of the asavas or your taints within you, it is not something that we can do just by attending a retreat, observing still on one day. These are all important, but these are part of the training. And going to a retreat is important because it's a part of the training of the mind. Normally the mind, it's very difficult to control, and it's very necessary that we train the mind. So going to a retreat or being in a retreat and observing that, it's an opportunity for you to discipline your mind, to be able for the mind to get the mind to concentrate or to get to one-pointedness, the stillness of the mind. All these are things that we have to cultivate. We have to train ourselves. And that's, as you know, that's why it's called Seka. All of us are Sekas, the people are learners, and the Buddha or Arahant are called Aseka. That means they have finished their training. They have reached the goal, Aseka and Seka. So we have to, it's a matter of training. So here the first is Sangha Pahata. Is Dasana Pahata, Dasana. Dasana, you may know that in the Parinimitta Sutra also it is mentioned. Dasana is mentioned, that you have the correct view of things. If you don't have the correct view, it's not possible to go ahead. So the important thing is having the correct view or the correct vision. And dasana can be even translated vision or correct scene. Venerable Bodhi translates as scene. So the correct scene, how to see it correctly. So by seeing correctly, we can, to some extent, it's not only one way the Buddha explains of, there are 7 ways. And it's very interesting, the Buddha says there are what could be abandoned, what could be what is called set aside by one method cannot be done by the others. They are all interconnected. But although they are interconnected, it's important that certain types of our taints which are coming arises in our mind has to be destroyed, has to be abandoned in one way. So the first group of, I would say group, is to have a dasana. By dasana, by having the correct view, it is possible to abandon or get rid of certain assavas. Now there, when you discuss the Sabbassava Sutta, it is mentioned how it is described. It depends. It all finally culminates in a person becoming a Sotapanna. Because the Buddha says that if you have the correct vision, develop that correct vision, correct seeing, then three fetters, we get rid of three fetters. The three fetters of Ditti, the Sila, the Paramarsa, the Avijja, the three fetters that are there, mentioned in of the 10 fetters. So these fetters, of the three fetters, the first initial fetters, are abandoned when you have the correct vision. So that's important because what we can, and then only with that it's easier for us to go forward. The second one is, the second way or method is by Sanghara, is restraining. The restraining, it's extremely important. This is something that we have to observe, or we have to cultivate, develop every moment. Because so long as we live, we are in constant contact with the outside world through our senses. We're constant contact. Each one's world is different because our experiences differ. So when we have that contact with the outside form, we have the I, then the outside form, and then the I consciousness arises. And if you do not, if you don't have yoniso manasikara, what would happen is that there's a proliferation of our thoughts. So it's extremely important that when we get into contact, or when the contact with our senses, the outside objects, with the eye, we see objects, outside form, the same way with the ear, the nose, the tongue, body, and the mind, all those, we have the outside we come into contact. And there we have to develop restraint. We don't develop restraint at that moment, then there's a proliferation of thoughts. And with the proliferation of thoughts, then there is an increase of the kilesas, of the assavas that are there. It could be kamasava, bhavasava, or avijjasava. Any of those things could develop according if you do not have restraint. So the second, the way that we have to in restraining ourselves, we have to always be mindful. And it's important to note that as we go along, there are of the Eightfold Path, Tanko Mango, the cardinal, the most important of the Eightfold Path, of the aspects, is Samma Ditti, Samma Sati, and Samma Virya. So we have to always have the correct view, because if we don't have the correct view, we think, as the Buddha himself says, the Buddha says, that we think of what is incorrect as correct. So in many of these, everyone they do the correct thing. But they do the correct thing according to their vision, according to their way of thinking. But the correct way to think, the Buddhist way, the Buddha way, is with our thinking, or with our notion, with the base of anicca, dukkha, and anatta, especially the anatta. So here, in the samvara, so as these arise, as we get into contact with outside world, we have to have restraint. And that's extremely important for us if you want to go on along this path. If you want to destroy or abandon the assavas, that's another aspect, another way of destroying. That is, as we get into contact, when our senses come into contact with the outside, the object, sense object, then we have to develop our restraint. Not allowing the mind to wander, which is usually what happens. Anything that we hear something, and then after when we listen to that, say some news item, then our mind starts wandering. It's not that. The thing is that the way that the mind, we have to have always a check. You have to always observe the mind. The observation of the mind at every moment is extremely important. You want to have samvara prasad, samvara as Pahid. So that's the second one, samvara. Then another aspect, another way of the Buddha, another way of destroying, abandoning the asavas is by using. So that's patisavana. Patisavana is using. Now, all of us use, for the bhikkhus, we use the four requisites for the bhikkhus. You know that. It's the chivara, then pindapata, senasana, vilana. So that means chivara are the robes. That is what we wear. Then pindapata, our food. And then we have the shelter where we live. And also finally the medicaments. When we are sick, we have the medicaments. So these are the four requisites. So when we, as a bhikkhu, when we observe, when we take food or when we use any of these four, we have to be conscious, and we have to be conscious of why we are using them. It's mentioned as the reflection, the four reflections of a bhikkhu. So the four reflections are there in the Mahapiriputta, and you will see that before the Dasadhamma Sutta, the four reflections. We have to reflect. So when we reflect on, when we take our food, there's a reflection in Pali. We say, Neva Madaya, Patisankha Yoniso. That's the most important things. Patisankha, wisely reflected. Patisankha Yoniso, wisely reflected. Neva Madaya, na Mandana. These not for our adornment. And these not for our intoxication. We get intoxicated by our own strength or something, we get intoxicated. With our body, with our beauty, we can get intoxicated. It is not for that. Neo Madaya, na Madaya, na Mandanaya, not for adornment, na Vimusanaya. Javadeva imassa payasa titiya. It is for this body, Yavadeva imassa payasa titiya. It's for the maintenance of this body. As you know, everybody needs food. Without food, we can't. Sabbassava Sutta is mentioned. All need nutriments. So nutriments are important. So we take this, take the food every time we come to Vajiraramaye, we see before we take our meals, all of us recite that. We are conscious of the fact that we are doing this, we are having this meal, not for adornment, not to make us, win something or, on our body or something, but, for this purpose. Yavadeva imasakaya satitya. Then also we say our hunger, in order to get rid of our hunger. That's also mentioned, because we have hunger, everybody has hunger, to get rid of the hunger. And after that it says, and also not to overeat. Because we have to be very conscious of how much we eat. If there is no indulgence, the problem is it's indulgence in food. So if we have to say, that Pali term is there, and then finally we say that in order to help us, assist us, and in order to have this noble life, brahmacharya, brahmacharya, for this brahmacharya, to lead this noble life, we need that. So in the same way, when we take when we say wear our robes, or when we take medicaments, when we have shelter, we always are conscious of this fact. Now that's very important. Now, although it's because for bhikkhus, but in the same way, when you think of the four requisites, in the case of layman, we say food, clothing, shelter. Food comes first, food, clothing, shelter, and medicine. Now, as the doctors say, if you take too much of medicine, too much of vitamins, it's a problem. Too much of food, it's a problem. So if you can have your dwelling, the food, clothing. I know you might. I can remember a long time ago when there was the Marcos, the president of the Philippines, wife Imelda had 1,000 pairs of shoes. That was her fad. She had. So each person could have fads like that. This is one. I wore this for that wedding. I can't wear this for the next wedding, so I should have a new one. Like that, your wardrobe. It's not that's a usual thing. But what the Buddha says, when you use these things, when you have your food, when you take your food, when you have your medicaments, when you have shelter, when you develop your house, that means your house, where you live, it has to be comfortable. It has to be comfortable. The Buddha doesn't want that. Majjhima Patipada, the middle path. But thing is, there is overindulgence. And that's a problem of the world today. All this, everything is for that catering for the senses, to please the senses. The whole world is for that. All the marketing strategies is to make us indulge in certain things. Every day there will be something in the hotel and say today is this day, that day, that day. You want this type of food. So it's always like that. But the point is, it's not that the Buddha doesn't want us, the layman, as layman, to lead a life which is called drab, like that. No, don't get attached to that. You have to know your limits. And that's what's important. If you want to define, if you want to get rid of these assavas, it's extremely important that one should have your limits, know your limits, and then just not indulge in these. Certain people indulge in food and get sick later. As you indulge in, as I said, medicaments, and also your shelter, the house. It's not this way. We need it in the grandiose way. And I see sometimes messages that come to me from other senior district officers on that say that when we were young we built this particular house, but now it's all vacant. We don't know what to do. The children are not there. And then so we are not thinking of the future, but we are thinking of at that particular moment, mostly in order to compare with another. The worst thing that should happen if you want to proliferate your assavas is to compare it with the Joneses, doing something. So that's the normal way. That's what happens in ordinary society. But if a person is interested, that's why he says interested, you want to develop it, then you have to realize these facts, and you have to curtail yourself, you control yourself, you restrain yourself. So there are those assavas or taints that has to be abandoned when using or by using. Or say by use, that means you use it, but you abandon by not indulging. Then also there are another section, another type of assavas, where we have to endure. We have to endure. I would say that, and in the suttas it's mentioned, but as a bhikkhu, if you are meditating, when you are meditating, there are the mosquitoes, there are the gadflies, all that. And so pain comes, the pain in the legs, so many things. If that, at that moment, we should train ourselves to endure, to be patient. So that's because that situation, that's extremely important in another aspect of it. Because when we do something, if say, if a fly just, or mosquito buzz, we get irritated. So that's the asava. So that's the taint, defilement. We get defiled because we get irritated by many things. So by enduring, by having patience, then what happens is, then it's possible can you hear me or what's it? It's a problem, I don't know. Right? So that's another aspect, that we have to learn to endure, learn to have patience, train ourselves to be patient. And that's another important aspect. Another aspect of asava, of how we abandon the asavas, the taints. So another important thing is, by avoiding. Now, that's also what the Buddha says. The thing is, there is a problem. If there is something happening, if you rush there, it's quite likely that you get into some problem. So the thing is, the Buddha, in his very practical way, certain situations we have to avoid. Go out, sense. The thing is, there are certain places that we should not be visiting. If you say, I want to test my patience, and I want to test my power of metta, loving kindness, and if there's a stray dog coming, you say, I have metta on the dog, maybe, and go forward, you'll get bitten. So that's what the Buddha says. If in those situations you avoid that, avoid such situations. By avoiding, then there is restraint, by avoiding. So many situations, if you think of your own lives, your past lives, if you have avoided certain situations without going well and trying to, try to face that situation rather than avoid it, then I think that situation, or the later, possibly you may not have to regret. So there are these assavas that we have to abandon by avoiding. So then the other one is finally, it's the bhavana, comes last. The seventh is bhavana. So bhavana, normally we take bhavana as meditation. It's true, it's meditation. But it's more than that. It's a translation that we are used to now, meditate. The thing is meditate, you can also pre-meditate. But thing is, the better word is cultivation. Bhavati. Bahuli karo. Bhavet, bhavati, bhaveti. Bahuli karo. That means you will cultivate more and more. So that's the important thing is we have to cultivate. Cultivate what? Cultivate the mind. So when we cultivate in the mind is extremely important, and that's why it's called bhavana pahatanta. We get rid of, we abandon by cultivating our mind. When we cultivate our mind, where the Buddha mentions, you have to cultivate the seven enlightenment factors, the satta bhujjanga, the seven bhujjanga. That's how to be cultivated. So the cultivation of the bhujjanga, bodhyanga, is extremely important, at that stage. But to get to that level, you have to have earlier, you have to have these dasanas, dasana. And also, before that, another important which I forgot is vinodana. That is, we have to cultivate, develop certain aspects. There is, as you know, the second of the Eightfold Path is sammasankappa, thoughts and intentions. And it's very necessary that we have thoughts and intentions. Normally, we have to have, if you have intentions with karma, pleasing the senses, then you can't develop this. On the other hand, what we have to cultivate is nekkhamma, niskhamma, to give up. So giving up is important. Thoughts of ill will, vyapadas, thoughts of ill will have to be, we have to develop avyapad, loving kindness, loving metta, loving kindness. We have to develop that. And also, we have to develop, we have to give up sila bhata paramas, and also cruelty, himsa, and we have to develop avihimsa. So the three aspects of the samma sankappa, that's come as vinodana, that's what we have to develop in our minds. If you want to abandon the asavas. And then only finally we have reached that stage or interacting with each other, and with each of these factors, we reach the final of bhavana, where we cultivate the seven enlightenment factors. Now the seven enlightenment factors, the bhujjanga, the bodhyanga, these are to develop by each one of us. So it's not my intention to explain what the seven bodhyangas are. The seven bodhyangas, I think Satisambhujjanga. The verse is mindfulness is the first. Then we have Dhamma Vichaya Sambhujjanga. Dhamma Vichaya, that is, we are investigating the Dhamma, the phenomena, the aspects of it, Dhamma Vichaya, the nature of things, Dhamma Vichaya. Then we have the effort is required. We develop the Virya Sambhujjanga, Virya effort. When we develop our virya, in one, we have piti sambucha, piti, happiness. That piti is mental rapture, we call it. The mental happiness, we develop that. It comes automatically. It's something as we go along. We get this piti. Then calmness comes, passaddhi. And along with passaddhi, calmness. Then we come to samadhi, one-pointedness. And then finally, we have the upekkha, equanimity. The thing is this, these 7 enlightening factors, and as you know, when you say upekkha, then Buddhasa lokadammehi chittang yasa, then at that stage, when we have developed upekkha, equanimity, we can withstand all the vagaries of life. You know, the vagaries of life, all of us in our life, we have been facing that, but sometimes we have been sad, sometimes we are happy, but we can face all these situations. Lokadammehi, chittang yasa na kampati, our minds do not get comforted or that's tremble, agitated. So that's what is important to remember is that if you want to get rid of or abandon the assavas, the taints, it's something that we have to do every moment of our life. We have to be conscious. We have to have yoniso manasika, wise attention at every moment. And that's difficult. That's the training that is required. When we have wise attention only, as the Buddha says, that it's possible for anyone that the taints will not arise, or the taints that have arisen, we can get rid of them. If you have unwise attention, then what happens is taints do come, and whatever taints that have arisen will increase. So the beginning, what we have to do is to train our minds to be always alert. Be always alert. So that's why I say you have to have a correct vision. If you don't have that correct vision, and if you don't have that saddha, I'll say, if you take the world, there are 8 billion people, 8 billion. Said that 350 or about 350 million. Some say it's 450. Take the Buddha Sakyamuni as their teacher. They may have different views or different aspects of it, but there are so many who have not heard of the Buddha. There are so many in the world who are now becoming people who are without religion. Without any religion. So the thing is, if you want to develop, if you wish to, we have to know it. We have to be conscious of it. We have to know and see. Janato passato. We have to know and see what the assavas that are there within us, in our own minds. It's not external. We have to know. Unless we see them, we understand them as taints or defining factors, there is no progress. So the progress to happen, it's extremely important that we see, and also we know the defining factors or the taints that we have within us. With the indifferent, other suttas mentioned, there are the people who are more of harm attachment. There are people who are more irritation. There are people who get irritated very quickly, not all. There are people who are more with avijja, who are not seeing the truth. So the thing is, along with that, we have developed our mind. So if you have to sum up these, the seven, I would say, the seven factors are, I'll mention, I will just summarize it by saying, there are the factors that by seed, yes, by abandoning by seed, it's called dasana pahakama. Dasana pahakama by seed. And there I said, when you see properly, when you get to that level of seeing correctly, one becomes a sotapanna. One gets rid of the three fetters, the first three fetters. We have what called confidence. Confidence in the Buddha, confidence in the Dhamma, and confidence in the Sangha. That confidence is not there in ordinary persons, any other. We have to develop that achala. It's called achala saddha. And then we have to have developed our morality, the 5 precepts, in a manner that we have developed that even the noble ones will like. Ariyakantasi, that's because that they like the way these things are practiced by us, by a person, the 5 precepts. The 5 precepts, when you practice 5 precepts, that you would break in one, maybe the beginning and the end, or we may be breaking that in the middle. We may break the 3rd precept, or we may break the 5th precept. Sometimes we may break the 2nd precept. Like that, we may be breaking the precepts. The thing is, without, we have to have the precept, observe the precept in a manner that even the Aryas, the noble ones, will like. So with that, that's how Sabbassava Sutta is linked with the Noble Eightfold Path. The Sila part is extremely important. The morality is important. And developing the morality, we have to have Samvara, and that's why we have the Samvara Pahakama. When our sensual flesh, when we are senses, get in contact with the outside world, at that particular moment, we should develop our restraint. That particular moment. And if we don't have that restraint at that moment, then the assavas will increase, new assavas will come up, and then we are not on the path. So then after that, we say by using. By using means mention food, clothing, shelter, medicine. In using, we should know our limits. We should know not indulgence. And our control is extremely important. And this is done in our day-to-day life. It has to be done. It has to be done. And at every moment when we come across, we say, are we getting indulgent? Are indulging in food? Sometimes when we go for a wedding party, we overeat. Then there is by endurance. That is by when we face certain situations, we have to endure with patience. When we do our meditation, that's what the Buddha mentioned there. He mentions that flies, the mosquitoes, the flies, and others will disturb you. Is it possible for you to do that meditation without getting irritated? Even when you take your meal, sometimes a fly may come and it may irritate. Is it possible for you to get over that situation without getting irritated? So by using, when you use it, that's a time, that's a moment for you to develop your restraint, abandon. Or else, if you do not, that means you are not seeing or you're not aware, knowing that particular act of yours or that particular thought of yours is not correct. That's why yoniso manasikara is important. And then we have, by avoiding situations, don't get in problems, by avoiding situations, very extremely important in life, rather than going headlong and get in problems and meeting with or situations which you could have avoided wisely, that wise reflection, yoniso manasikara. Then you have you have the vinodana, the dispelling. The vinodana, that's a samma sankappa, I said. You dispel the thoughts, the three factors that comes in vichya sankappa. You have to develop instead of vihingsa, you have to develop avihingsa sankappa. Instead of karma, we have to say nekkhamma sankappa, and we have to develop nekkhamma sankappa, and avihingsa sankappa, and avyapada sankappa. So at those moments, those are the moments we have to develop those things. It doesn't automatically come. All these things have to be developed. And finally, when it's come to the final, which is called really cultivation then we have to cultivate, that's cultivation of the mind. Sati and all the seven bhujjangas, the enlightenment factors are there for us to cultivate. So it's really a Sabbassava Sutta is important, very interesting sutta. Because especially as I mentioned, if the motto of this organization is to be Arahant Hessam. Arahant Hessam is the motto. Let me be an Arahant. So if you really want to be an Arahant, a keen assava, you have to be a keen assava. That means you have to get rid or abandon all these assavas. The assavas that are mentioned, the kamasava, sensual, then bhavasava, our longing to live, carry on, and avijjasava, avigdons. So these are, I think I have taken 1 hour, I think, discussing that. And then let's have a discussion on what I have said. There's a possibility for me to answer your questions. I will answer. So thank you very much for listening. And it's an important sutta, as I said. It's a very graduated, unlike some of the suttas here, it's something that we have to do ourselves. We have to observe ourselves, and we have to see our faults, know our faults, and see our faults, and get rid of them according to the methods that are being used. And we can test it at the different situations. So thank you very much. So let's have the questions that come up. You have to be very